Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about the Bitcoin dominance. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So the Bitcoin dominance is something that I don't typically talk about on the public channel. You might wonder why. Usually we talk about it on the premium list, okay? And we have custom charts that we use to look at it. This video, I'm just going to be drawing lines on TradingView and looking at some of these macroscopic trends, at least taking place over the last year, which maybe is not macroscopic, but we're just going to be taking a quick look at some of the recent trends of the Bitcoin dominance. Now, if you go back, back in 2017, the Bitcoin dominance was like 95%. And then it quickly dropped off. We had this altcoin bubble, right? An altcoin bubble. And ultimately, we came back into this more, this downtrend region. Now, one of the things I just want to show, and we're more or less just playing with lines in the chart here, but just to look at this pattern, you can pretty easily see it, right? I mean, it scooped down, back up, down even further, and back up, and then down even further. What you notice, each of these, the high is decreasing, right? So each time that we come back up, the dominance for Bitcoin is decreasing, and we're going to even take it all the way to the wick here. Even with the wicks, you can see that so far, the dominance has increased every single move back up, and in the same manner, the bottoms are also getting lower. So that's something else to consider, and let's color these a different color so that we can more easily identify the differences. So there's one. This was the next bottom down here, and then here was the next bottom all the way down here. So far, each top and each bottom has been going down, okay? And one of the things I want to do is we're just going to connect these points. So we're just going to draw a line through these wicks, okay? So, and by the way, this is just having a little bit of fun on the Bitcoin dominance chart. This is not meant to be anything that you can necessarily take to the bank or anything like that. We're drawing lines in the chart, looking at these macroscopic moves of the Bitcoin dominance. So we're kind of stepping down each time, and if we go the other way and draw it from the bottoms up to say the tops, let's try to do that. So we're just going to draw it through here. So, I mean, there's really no reason to extend these out, but just to have them ultimately cross, we can do that. So, this is ultimately what we see, right? And let's just connect these to make them look really nice. You can see that each bottom is getting lower, but now we're actually going to measure these moves, okay? We actually want to measure these moves so we get a better idea of exactly where they are going. So, the first one, and we're going to measure it. We're going to first start with the tops, and then we're going to go to the bottoms. So the first one was around this point at the top of this wick, and it ultimately decreased by approximately 2 to 3% over 112 days. The next one decreased by approximately 2 to 3% over 154 days. The next one decreased by approximately 3% over 175 days if you include this wick. If you want to take it to the next one, over about 203 days. What you notice is that we're decreasing by approximately 2 to 3% so far in the Bitcoin dominance each time. You can see more or less the pattern here, right? It comes down and then back up, and then the next time it goes down even further and then back up, but it doesn't go high as it was the prior time. And then the third time we go down even lower and then back up. But so far, we have not been able to put in a higher high anytime recently for the Bitcoin dominance. In September of 2019, the dominance reached around 72%. The following December, it reached around 71%. The next May, it reached around 69. At the top here, it reached around 70%. So far, it was 72 or so, 72, 73, down to 71. The next one was around 69 to 70. So far, we're currently around 67. So you can see that even though the dominance of Bitcoin has been incredible recently, we also dipped down a lot lower that time. Now we're going to measure the drops from the bottom. So let's take from this point to here. It was a drop of 7% over 196 days. The next one was also around 200 days, 196 days, and it was another drop of 7%. So pretty similar pattern. So from the top, it's decreasing around 2 to 3% each time. The time between these revisits to this larger trend line are increasing. So 112 days, 154 days, 203 days. From the bottoms, they're more consistent. Negative 7% over 196 days, negative 7% over 203 days. Again, we know these types of trends don't last forever because it wasn't that long ago when we were in a completely different trend. But I just want people to recognize that despite the fact that the Bitcoin dominance has risen a lot recently, it still has yet to put in a higher high from the last move. And the last move implied closer to a 70% Bitcoin dominance. So if we get above 70%, then the trend is somewhat changing. So far, we're still below it because, again, we started at 73, then went down to 71, then went down to 69 to 70, and then now we're at 67. So the macroscopic trend over the last, say since September of 2019, so about a year and a half, maybe a little bit less than a year and a half, that trend is still intact. Lower highs, lower lows. Now, I guess this begs the question, if we were to extend, let me delete that, and if we were to extend this line out, and we were to see this pattern continue, where would it put us? Okay. Well, I mean, imagine the peak. Imagine Bitcoin finally calms down by the end of the month or sooner, and then altcoins have their day, right? If altcoins have their day again, then we know that the dominance can quickly come back down. We know the dominance can quickly come back down in that scenario. And if it were to play out the same way, let's remove some of these lines so we can see that macro pattern again, right? These bottoms, you see these valleys forming. And if we were to see something, and actually let's measure it out again. We're going to go 200 days from here. So we're talking about maybe mid-March. So somewhere in this ballpark. Now, this would imply that altcoins would have a phenomenal Q1. Okay, it would imply that they would vastly outperform Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is dropping like a rock, then most likely altcoins would bleed against Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance would go up. And when I mean dropping like a rock, what we mean by that is if Bitcoin is, say, going from, let's say it goes to $25,000 or $30,000, and then it starts just dropping considerably, it goes back down to like 15K or something. In that type of a scenario, the dominance of Bitcoin would likely go up. If, on the other hand, Bitcoin has a correction, let's say it goes to 25K or 30K, or even it turns around at 24K and it calms down for a bit, even if it drops 10, 20, 25% over a few weeks or a couple months, there's still a good chance altcoins could rally against Bitcoin, especially considering that they've done much of nothing for the last 2 or 3 months. So if that were to happen, and we saw a final the long-awaited move by altcoins going into Q1, then maybe we would see something like this. And then the same trend would continue. We would come back down to the bottom in March, and then maybe we go back up. And if we do something like that, then this would likely imply that altcoins would be rallying in Q1. If this is the way the trend works out. Again, we don't know what's going to happen in the short term. We just try to look at these trends and come up with a few different scenarios and see what is likely, what is not likely. For instance, something that's not as likely is not likely for Bitcoin to go back to, say, 95% dominance like it was back in early 2017. That's likely just not going to happen. Of course, some people might disagree with that. Remember, every narrative is the same, and if you've watched the channel long enough, you know this. Altcoins are dead until they're not. It happens every single time. It's probably happened 3 times this year already. Altcoins are dead until they're not. We're in the phase of Bitcoin expansion and price discovery. Whenever that ends, we get back into altcoin mania time, and assuming Bitcoin can stay relatively bullish, during altcoin mania, it brings in a lot of new people. They start wondering, why would you ever own Bitcoin when all the altcoins are doing great? they FOMO into the altcoins right at the wrong time after they've already made major moves. They get completely wrecked. Bitcoin dominance goes back up, and their altcoin positions are completely obliterated at that point. And then they leave the market or something, right? They then realize, okay, maybe it's not so smart to only ever invest in altcoins. And this is a great example of why, as I've said, it's always best, in my opinion, not that it's financial advice, but it's best in my opinion that, and I have it like this, that Bitcoin has, and always will be the majority of my portfolio, because you see how impressive it is against the entire rest of the market. In my opinion, it's silly to not own a majority of your position in Bitcoin. It's the market mover. And just because Bitcoin moves does not mean the rest of the market will move. But if the rest of the market is moving, then generally speaking, Bitcoin is relatively healthy. Now, that's not always the case. Okay, there are times when Bitcoin has not made any significant moves and some altcoins will rally, especially lower market cap altcoins. But in general, if Bitcoin is moving, it means the entire asset class is moving. Bitcoin is dragging up a lot of coins. Ethereum is moving up over a several week period, monthly period. Ethereum's at 650. It doesn't feel that impressive because it's underperforming Bitcoin, but if Bitcoin moves, generally the market moves, but the rest of the market will likely underperform Bitcoin. On the other hand, if the rest of the market is moving, then we typically know that Bitcoin is quite bullish. So, this is just something I wanna show you guys that so far the dominance has been decreasing. And we come down about 2 or 3%, and every time between it's approximately, this one's 126 days, this one's slightly longer, maybe a month longer, this one was maybe another couple months longer. If this one is, even longer before we come back down to it again, we could be looking at the dominance going back up, say late 2021 or something like that. And maybe by that point it'll be a lot more clear what general way the market is heading, like what theory turns out to be correct. But at this point, we can see that the dominance of Bitcoin is still lower than it was a few months ago, which is lower than it was a few months before that, and lower than it was a few months before that, and that the bottoms of the dominance are also getting lower, meaning each of these little micro bubbles of altcoins against Bitcoin tend to bring the Bitcoin dominance lower each time. So a lot of us would like to see an altcoin move in Q1. I'm right there with you. I want to see it too. There's no guarantee that it'll happen, but it's the risk that you take when owning a lot of altcoins. Okay, and again, that's why the majority of my position is in Bitcoin, but the altcoins are there ready to go if and when they have a nice move in Q1 of 2021. If you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Remember, we also have the premium list. You can find a link to that in the description below for the holiday sale. The prices will be going up, and I think I'm just gonna have the prices go up. We'll let it run at least through the end of the year. But make sure you guys check out the premium list if you guys want access to the weekly reports, the videos, the TradingView indicator, the Telegram alerts channel, and a few other things. Also, make sure you subscribe. Let's get to 80,000 subscribers. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.